Hi YouTube, Dustin McCreary here, and I'm here to check back in. It's been 6 months probably since I posted a video. A lot has changed for me. No longer at Rewild University. I've moved back to where I was before Wisconsin. I was in Wisconsin for about 2 years, and now I'm back in Indianapolis. So I wanted to kind of catch up and say hello. I'm not the greatest at social media, and you might notice that since I didn't post for the last 6 months, but if you follow my Instagram, I've probably not posted in the same amount of time. And Facebook, if I do post something, I'm mostly trying to keep my family entertained with photos of my daughter. It's not a strong suit for me, and I've tried to cultivate the skill of social media and putting myself out there and connections, but this isn't a strong platform for me. But I really love YouTube because we have this sense of flow where I can maintain a conversation in a way, right? And I kind of want to, I'm inspired by people that are maybe going into a little more depth of their life practices or what's going on for them, and using it as a platform for myself, as self-reflection, and also just something where maybe you'll pick up on something you hear here, and it will be, maybe there's something you wanted to try out that you just get a perspective from me, and it just makes sense. Or for example, here we go, is that I really like throwing cards and like trying to cut through a piece of paper when I'm throwing cards, and I follow this other YouTuber who just has some videos of him tossing cards into a hat at a short distance, much less violent and easily done without damaging the cards or chasing them as far away. So that's something which I'm really grateful that I found on YouTube, and a lot of practices just like that. So I'm going to share some of my own today, and before that though, I'm going to share an update of what's going on with me. So I was in Wisconsin, and I was living with Kenton Whitman and Rebecca Whitman of Rewild University. I was an apprentice and then head instructor of the school, and it was an incredible time. Challenging to be in this teacher role that was very intimate. Our students lived with us for 4 months, and some of them longer, some of them shorter. But I was out there with these people multiple days a week, and we get a real tribe feeling, and so emotions are shared. So I live in the city now, and we get a lot of noise pollution that I didn't have, but I'm actually quite grateful for it in some ways. It was pretty secluded at times up in Wisconsin, so you might catch some sounds like that. I live right in the middle of Indianapolis. I am a few miles from downtown, and I'm actually really enjoying the accessibility of things. Here it is though. Once I arrived, the quarantine happened, and we're really looking forward to having our daughter commingle with other kids, and us too, making connections, making friends, just doing things with family and such. And then the quarantine happened, so I've been kind of locked down here. But I've been keeping busy. I've got a little garden right here where I've got some potatoes, and throughout the landscaping beds I've planted food. So I'm trying to I'm trying out some things with growing food, and it's not a strong suit for me, so I'm out here trying to cultivate that skill. That's just kind of a theme for me. I started my practice of, I don't know, I guess skill cultivation at like 13, 14. I was very serious into skateboarding. That was a passion of mine. But then at some point I found Buddhism, and I became really passionate about it and seeking out meditation practices. And that's where I started this idea of release. But it took me years to grasp it, because it's not innate. It is innate within me, but it's not just on the surface level. It's not just something I was born into feeling. I have a natural tendency to go, and I have a strong drive, and it's very clear I get that from my father. And so I found Buddhism, and what I did, because I was teaching myself, um, was, you apply your past onto your current situation. So whatever kind of things I'd been doing that I was thinking I was going to address by doing these Buddhist practices, oftentimes I would catch myself just, for example, maybe I wasn't the best at dealing with emotions whenever I was a teenager. So during my Buddhist practice, the idea or sitting meditation practice, maybe I would come to the idea that I'm going to be filtering and or controlling these mental thoughts, and I gained the ability to do so, and I think that there is some strength in going about it that way, and I think you also sometimes have to learn the hard way. Um, so here's a quick one. When you're first starting a fire, by rubbing sticks together, doing a hand drill, everyone gets the blisters and callus, and it is almost encouraged in a way to do some toughening of the hands, but ideally you land in a spot in which you're not exerting that much effort, and especially that you're not damaging your hands whenever you're just trying to start a fire, because you want it to be a repeatable practice, right? So yeah, grind it out and try it, and blow your hands out one time, but hopefully you'll learn your lesson a few times away from then. You don't normally learn it the first time around, and you end up softening your practice, and it stops making it about controlling and manipulating, and it becomes more about working with the materials, or in the meditation sense, instead of trying to control my mind, control my thoughts and emotions, working with them, and then that's where I'm at. And I don't know if you ever get beyond that. You learn. I've learned ways to relax into my feelings, and I've learned ways to kind of put them at a halt. Depending upon the scenario. If there's very good reason to be able to just willpower yourself over those emotions, if you're really called upon. But there's a deeper strength and a more potent strength that comes from being able to come into acceptance and work from that space, rather than imposing, or just the idea of release here, and a softer way. So that's what I've been up to. Kind of got a little tangent there, but I've moved here, and I've been keeping up my practices in just different ways since Rewild University. Gardening is a way that I have much going on there, between the functional movement and between the observation of and participation in the growth of the plant. I find it to be a good time, and I've been spending time with family. Honestly, my father is in a very rough spot right now. He's on his last days of his life, and so I've made it a point to be in contact with them as much as I can during this whole situation we got going on. And so comes this practice of connecting with my father, and experiencing those last months of his life, and how I want that to be. So what I'm kind of getting at is that what we did in Rewild Jew, those same things, whether I'm falling through the ice and trying to start a fire, or honestly I'm just trying to process the death of my father, there's a common thread there that I'm always coming back to. And I found this inspiration, I think, mostly in the Tao Te Ching. The idea of taking a lower stance, or and literally too, not just mentally adopting the idea of taking a lower stance, but physically doing it, and that's where Tai Chi came in, and that's why I'm taking the camera down a little bit here, so I can take a stance, right? And I can physical stance here, and my legs are locked. I'm kind of kind of upright. I feel this tension on my lower back, but I can lower my stance. And I didn't do much other than what I say called breaking the knees, which is simply, instead of having my legs locked, I just kind of drop just over there, and then all of a sudden the weight starts falling into my legs, into my feet, and I'm no longer catching it in my lower back, and it seems that there's some tension resolved. So this practice of release, you find it in those most extreme moments, and there's really good reason to go ahead and do some pressure testing and see if you can't, act whenever the odds are against you. But there's also, it's the same thing if you're just standing there. Can you maintain an availability to the moment without letting that monkey mind chatter start imposing upon? And I'm sure you're like me and you found that your mind has got you out of holes before. Very rational minded person. It's the way I kind of dug myself out of some belief systems that I didn't care for. But it only gets you so far. It only gets you so far, that rational mindset. It's one of those things that is masculine rather than, if I had to compare it, feminine. And this comes from the Tao Te Ching. We got a line in there that says, "Know the masculine, but keep to the feminine." And that line is just always running in my head. The idea being, and this really touches for me because my practices are normally an addressing of my natural tendencies. I would say my natural masculine tendencies, and that power, that way of just kind of plowing through life, or kind of bearing down and doing what I got to do. And there's some, like, I think some roles of hormones and such here that are affecting me, and so I'm taking the time through these practices to catch myself in doing this. Now that means that other people might have a tendency to be leaning in the other direction, right? Like my drive is a little bit heavily masculine, so I do these practices to find a center point that is somewhere between this masculine and feminine, the yin yang, really, the yin yang symbol that has that S curve in the center. And you want to be that S curve. You don't want to be finding yourself here or there. You want to be able to have this fluidity and move between those. Now, I am a father, and I'm primarily a stay-at-home dad, and so that's what I've been up to for some time now. I'm mostly being a stay-at-home dad, and that's why I've kind of stepped away from some of the social media and YouTube here, is because I've been focusing on being a dad and getting my family in a place that I feel is real comfortable, and we've arrived here. So, comfortable considering the situation, the quarantine situation that we're in. So you want to find yourself being that S line, and you want to have fluidity. And my as a dad, I have this way of, I have to like step in and be a nurturer, and take and find myself being soft-natured, but then as a martial artist, I care to know violence, and so I have people that come over and we practice sparring or wrestling, and I mean you up it, and we take it to this masculine point. So for some people, you're going to want to be addressing becoming more or coming more into your masculine tendencies. So maybe you're just not comfortable acting under pressure, which is, I would say, a masculine tendency to like be able to just like bear down, just do what you got to do. And not that only men do that. We see women doing this all the time, but those women are actually probably quite, balanced people. But I do get men and women that I feel that have this leaning of either, yin or yang, and you want to be that little squiggle line between there. So I'm always visiting things in which address a balancing of my person, because every day I wake up and I'm Dustin McCreary, and although I have an innate feeling of being something other than just Dustin, I have experiences as Dustin every day that I have to participate in. So Wisconsin, Indiana, challenges are different, but they're the same. And that's kind of the paradox of it, that oftentimes us Eastern philosophical leaning folks are getting at is that whether I was in the wilderness surrounded by predators and ticks and cold nights and mosquitoes, whatever it be, or whether I am right here in the middle of the city where security is supposedly guaranteed, it's the same. And that's one thing I really want to make sure comes across here, is that right now you have the chance to be doing whatever you believe you could be doing if you were somewhere else. And I think it starts with something related to releasing, trusting, letting go. And I tell you, in those moments of nothingness, that's where everything comes from, right? Like from this void, spontaneity comes, and if you're available to it, you might just catch a ride that is quite enjoyable. Hopefully that makes a little sense. I just kind of rambled on. Wanted to put my face out here on YouTube and say hello. Comments below. Anything you caught there that was curious? Anything maybe I should touch on again in another video? It's getting a little loud. Goodbye.